Hi there, just a quick favour to ask you before we go to the video. Could you please subscribe to the channel? It's only Mark and I here covering so much, and we just think it's really important to keep bringing the stories to you that you might not have heard, and for us to just continue this community and us sharing and talking and somehow soothing and supporting through this nightmare. Let's face it, it's a nightmare. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the Sawalha-Adderleys.
Hi everybody, Free Palestine. Nobody's going to do anything to that slogan.
Last time we updated our followers, Netanyahu had equated Free Palestine to Heil Hitler.
Yes.
A new insanity.
So we're not going to have that.
Yeah.
We've actually both been really ill, so we haven't been as on top of the news re Gaza as we are normally. Of course, we've been on top of it in our lives, but not on social media. And like many of you, just heartbroken. And there's been lots of lovely messages DMing through Instagram of activists and other people with a human beating heart, consoling each other.
What do you mean, people who've got empathy? People who have compassion that runs through their veins?
Yeah.
I mean, it strikes me almost that in the last 48, 72 hours, some of the stories and some of the developments that we're going to be talking about today very much pivot around the very heart of this atrocity, which is medical staff, families, children, and vengeance by a rogue state against them all. So, I mean, we're obviously going to be talking about
a rogue terror state.
Yeah, a rogue terror state. You know, I'm thinking of the doctor. We're going to talk about the doctor who lost 9 of her children. Yeah. We're going to be talking about the deeply distressing footage of a young girl trying to find a way to escape a burning school shelter. We're going to be talking about Jerusalem Day as well, which is just this quite shocking sanctioning of Islamophobia, that if the boot was on the other foot, I don't see anyone on the planet tolerating Muslims charging through Tel Aviv, screaming anti-Semitic hate. I mean,
death to all Jews, because that's what they shout, death to all Arabs.
The lack of self-analysis, we'll get to it, but the lack of self-awareness and ability to kind of just go, oh, hang on, let's flip this round. It staggers belief.
Either one, atrocious.
Yeah, absolutely. Either one atrocious.
Yeah, so this is Dr. Tanya Haj Hassan, who I've been following right from the beginning. Many of you will know her. She's from Médecins Sans Frontières. She's a paediatrician. She has spoken so beautifully and so eloquently and so articulately throughout. She is a passionate advocate. She has begged, pleaded, wept at times to try and get the world to see what is going on. As I say to Mark all the time, when was it that we lost all respect for the doctor's words and for humanitarian organisations that have been around for decades? Words just swept away like they're nothing. These people are all desperate to make the world understand what is going on, and yet, still, when they are interviewed, we have this kind of...
Well, I just wanted to say, just in back up to what you were saying there, what really shocks me about all of this is only since we've been together nearly 25 years. About 10 years ago, I remember when one hospital was hit and one aid worker was killed. The entire United Nations were allowed in, there were investigations, there was an analysis, we needed neutral observers. All, as you rightly say, all of the respect for humanitarian aid organisations, medical staff, journalists, and any form of kind of outrage has just gone.
So this was, Tanya was being, or Tanya, I'm not sure which way you say that, but she's being interviewed on the BBC, and she'd already given quite a, as usual, her brilliant analysis of things. And then the BBC presenter asked her like this.
You say, let me just repeat what you probably heard me say, that the IDF have said in their statement regarding this attack in Khan Yunis. They've said that the IDF evacuated civilians from this area for their own safety, and they are now reviewing the claim, as they put it, regarding harm to uninvolved civilians. You've been a paediatrician for a long time.
Yes.
How would you characterise, if you can, and I can hear the distress in your voice, how would you characterise what you're seeing in Gaza when you go there to work?
Can you just pause it?
So first of all, in response
I just want to pause it there, because the way that the interview says, and I can hear the distress in your voice. This woman has been screaming at you, media, in her very controlled, educated, articulate way for 19 months. And now we're starting to, I can hear the distress. I'm sorry, I found that so bloody patronising.
No, I found it's what I call the cold demeanour of the legacy media. It's a
Distress.
cold. It's cold. It's cold.
Distress. She's talking about a colleague whose 9 of her 10 children have been murdered.
First of all, in response to that retort or that supposed justification, we've been hearing these for 19 months, and half of the time they're lies and they're subsequently debunked. We know there are lies, and the rest of the time, frankly, they're just preposterous. I had an intensive care unit that was filled with maimed children, orphan children, children who were the sole survivors of their family, children who'd lost every single sibling and whose parents weren't able to come visit them because they themselves were injured in the adjacent building. This was my experience this year. This was my experience last year. So to hear even airtime being given to these preposterous justifications by the Israeli spokespeople, when every single credible human rights organization, every single credible humanitarian organization is coming on delivering the same consistent message, saying this is consistent with genocide, saying that these are crimes against humanity, saying that civilian and humanitarian infrastructure is repeatedly and systematically targeted. I just don't even understand why we're giving these claims airtime anymore. Instead of focusing on credible organizations.
This is where I totally agree with a number of cultural observers and broadcasters who are saying, not in the legacy media, who are saying that the media is complicit in this genocide. Because what is really bizarre is the only official line ever given in any report is the Israeli official line. Because every single piece of information that comes from Gaza is the Gaza Health Ministry, bracketed, run by Hamas. Everything has a question mark over it. And yet what's so weird, Nadia, is that all these humanitarian aid organisations, as you rightly say, we have always held in such high regard when it's suited our Western narrative to believe human rights are being committed.
And now they're all worthless.
But
these people are worthless.
You can't put this genie. You can't put this genie back in the bottle.
It's just totally astonishing.
How do humanitarian aid organisations get back from this? Because I worry that, because I mean, I suppose in a weird way, this more naturally leads on to the story around the humanitarian aid that's being sent in by the Israelis and the Americans, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, this curious and suspect and deeply troublesome organisation of mercenaries. An organisation, interestingly, that was its own leader, the appointed head of this organisation, an American, has himself said, I can't lead this because it breaches too many of the basic protocols of depoliticizing aid. The problem here is the vast majority, what Israel and America are hoping with this Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is the vast majority of the world needs to hear that they're being fed because they want their souls and morals to go, I don't have to deal with this in my busy day. I don't have to worry about the poor Gaza
children. They don't upset Israel.
And they don't, but also don't upset Israel. But this is how it works. And most people can kind of go, oh yeah, but there's aid going in. You can't split hairs. You either want aid or you don't want aid. This is the line that's coming out. And what people don't understand is that in the macro, when you look at the macro details of this aid, it's going into hubs. No one knows where they are or how they're positioned. It's going to be given to only certain people. You will only get it if you're moving in a certain direction in Gaza, i.e. south. It's called kettling and ethnic
to where
cleansing.
They want them all in one area.
77% of the Gaza Strip is essentially controlled by Israel. I mean, all of it is controlled, but in terms of boots on the ground, there's only 23% left where they're not boots on the ground everywhere. And so even the head of this organisation of mercenaries, American and Israeli, pulled together, he's left saying this is untrustworthy, this isn't right. And of course the United Nations is called so. But this is leaving
The United Nations
has said this is verging on illegality.
Right.
They're politicising aid because, of course, this organisation will decide who is deserving of the aid. They will kind of put it in places that suits the logistics of the army and suits the logistics of the Israeli kind of occupation. Where will this leave humanitarian aid organisations?
I've got no idea.
They've been left totally in the cold.
I've got no idea.
All we hear from the UN is it's concerning. I mean, why does no one do anything?
If I hear one more person say they're concerned, if I see one more headline saying such and such country or such and such country is about to recognise Palestine as a, I mean, really? We have got a situation where people are starving to death, and a mile down the road, people are lighting up big barbecues and slicing watermelons and eating lamb kebabs.
Well,
that's what we've got going on here. Immediately, what we need above anything else is to stop bombing people that you've already dropped the equivalent of 6 Hiroshima bombs on, and feed these people, because they're dying of starvation.
But also, all the humanitarian aid organisations and the UN are saying the trucks are there, the infrastructure is there, the experience and the depoliticised experience, i.e. they're willing to go and they're not going to take sides.
They've been having to deliver food because Israel has always kept Gazans hungry.
Well, I'm going to show
They've been doing these tracks for years.
You won't need to create an Israeli-American-backed organisation to do this if you don't have footage like this, which is illegal settlers blocking the aid that is available.
And they bring their children and they dance and they sing and they light barbecues. You know,
and they pull
it's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
This is equivalent. Seeing these protesters, these Israeli people doing this,
so disgusting.
It's like dancing on the graves of children.
How many videos have we seen of them saying, "Well, no, you've got to kill all the children because they'll be terrorists next." This is said openly.
Yeah.
Smotrich has said, "Wow, what we're doing, like the world doesn't even bother anymore." He's actually said that out loud.
Obviously, the main story that kind of broke whilst we were ill was
and
this.
the one that Dr. Tanya was talking about.
Yeah.
There was this horrific story of the doctor who's a paediatrician. Her husband had taken her to work, dropped her off, and he'd headed back to their home. And Dr. Al-Najjar. Now, sorry, we don't speak Arabic. We try our hardest. We've had the pronunciation Google going up to get the names right, but if we haven't, forgive us. Anyway, he goes back home and the house is targeted, in my opinion, because you talk to anyone that knows that my father's Jordanian, you talk to anyone from that part of the world and they will tell you that Israel has the most incredible surveillance. They know every single thing about every single resident. Israelis as well, they know they know exactly where people live. Their house was targeted with a missile, 10 children in there, nine of whom were killed. The eldest one is in a critical position, as her husband, who's in a critical condition. So these children, Yahya, sorry again if I've got that wrong, 12 years old, Rakan, 10 years old, Eve, 9 years old, Jubran, 8 years old, Raslan, 7, Rifan, 5, Sadine, 3 years old, Lukman, 2 years old, Sidar, less than a year old. All gone. And I was listening to an interview with one of the people that was helping pull the children out. And he was saying the mother was there. She was there. She's a mother and she's a paediatrician. And he was clearly saying that they were so gone. You know, they were charred. And yet, obviously in her deep shock, oh, give me her. That's Kamal. That's this one. Thinking she was going to be able to do something to save them. Unimaginable. Unimaginable.
I just want to read this quote by Mohammed Sakir,
So angry.
the head of nursing at Nasser Hospital, and he said, "It's one of the most heartbreaking tragedies since the beginning of the conflict, and it happened to a paediatrician who dedicated her life to saving children, only to have her own motherhood stolen in a moment of fire and deafening silence." I'm going to play an Al Jazeera report on this. It's just, as Nadia says, it's been much reported much earlier on in this conflict how the Israeli authorities, government, have used AI and tech I forget the name of it, there was a particular type of particularly sinister tech, which means they know everyone who's related to everyone. They know where they all are all the time. It's a heavily monitored, it's the most heavily monitored and compromised concentration camp in the world. And so, you know, they've killed academics, they've killed higher education, they've killed learning. They're trying to completely destroy hope and expertise in the Gaza Strip. You know, and what's the cruelest aspect of this? The cruelest aspect of this, I can't believe I'm saying it, is that in the mother not dying, in the mother having enough to fight for and one child remaining and a husband, how is she expected to execute her skill, her necessary emergency expertise and skill with the weight of 9 children who have died? They know that. The Israeli authorities, they know that. So if they don't even hit the doctor, they hit the families. It's sinister.
Oh, and there has been a statement. They're investigating it. So we all feel so relieved.
So they're marking their own homework again.
في حدا عايز؟ في حدا هيد؟
موظف تبع الدفاع المدني بده يناولني جثة من الجثة الموجودة، هي تعرفت عليه واقفة جنبي، قالت هذه رفال أعطيني إياها. شوف عفويتها كأم، على أساس كلمة أعطيني إياها على أساس إن هي حية تحطها بين إيديها، هي طبيبة أطفال. شوف اللا شعور عندها إنه هي طلبت تاخذ بنتها تضمها لحضنها وهي ما ناسية إنه بنتها متفحمة قدامها.
In a moment, her daughters and her sons, with her hand died. Yahya, Sidra, Luqman, Sadin, Rival, Jubran, all of them died between his hand.
صارت ما بين الموتين، ما بين الناجي الوحيد من أولادها، ما بين زوجها اللي ما بين الحياة والموت، والله يصبرها ويصبرنا يا شيخ.
It's the cruelty, it's the cold-hearted cruelty, and that the media keeps. I think you understand why Dr. Tanya at the beginning, huge parts of the media simply keep hiding behind this. But this, the Israeli policy. The
Israelis have said, "Oh, so now do you feel better when you get to the end of your little bit on the telly?
Yeah.
Do you feel better now?" Oh, Israeli officials have told us that. Oh, okay.
But I suppose
that's that then. That's that done then. Okay, moving on.
But I feel the same way about them, and I feel the same way about the way they use Israeli press releases and their answers, as I do about defence attorneys defending people who are clearly guilty of the most awful fucking atrocities. It's like I know it's there as a kind of, but my God, would we have been encouraging the press to publish press releases from Hitler's Germany when they were committing the genocide? Then would we have been striving for balance? No.
Well, the wonderful thing is, Mark, we have a really clear parallel. We have Russia, and we have nothing must be believed that comes from Russia whatsoever. Nothing. Tragically, 3 children were killed from the same family in Ukraine the other day. Straight away, every news item over and over again saying it was tragic, that they come from the same family, naming each and every one of them over and over and over again. It's as clear as day. The racism, the Islamophobia, shame on you, shame on you.
Yeah.
Can you not see what we see? It's embarrassing.
And just to be clear on what you're saying, it's like the detail and remembrance afforded to the Ukrainian children is as it should be.
Absolutely.
The 2 Israeli embassy members in America that were shot, the detail we got was as it should be. But the same detail is not being afforded to the tens of thousands that are dying in Gaza. And you can't say that, but there's a lot more, because then you're kind of admitting the very problem that we're talking about.
So as long as you get, as long as there's enough of them.
So if you kill,
you know what? I'm an ambassador of a charity called Children Not Numbers. It's got worse than that. They're not even numbers now. So not even the numbers matter. The individuals, it got too much on all those names, then the numbers, and now the numbers are too much.
But
where are we at now? What are they? Just less than even a number.
We're at another moment in history where, the industrial quantities of death is getting in the way of giving detail. So we've been there once before.
Supposed to learn from history, aren't we?
Okay, so the other thing that obviously happened, and many of you may have seen this footage, this is the...
I think warning.
Yeah, there's a big trigger warning on this. This is the school and evacuee camp, essentially, that was hit on Monday. I believe it was Monday morning. And there was footage which was circulating massively. I think, Nadia, you posted a story about me messaging you saying, for God's sake, don't go online. There's some of the most distressing footage ever. It kind of recalled that footage of the journalist who, I don't know if you remember, sat at his desk. Everyone got over that too. So trigger warning, because you do see the silhouette of a child. It is blurred, but it is a silhouette. It is a fire. And this is a school in which I think between 38 and 54 casualties.
You can close your eyes if you want, and we'll tell you when to come back. More than 36 Palestinians.
هذا سألنا عن سينا كمان يعني برضو ضخم الحمد لله بس نشهد
This isn't AI footage. This is footage every single politician and journalist in this country can see. If this isn't causing you to do something, to put words into action, to enact sanctions, this country needs to be sanctioned to the hilt. They are a pariah state where, unfortunately, whether we like it or not, the vast majority now of even the population, according to polls conducted by Israeli publications like Haaretz, want the Palestinians gone. This isn't just a Netanyahu problem. A lot of you go to great lengths to remind us of that when I was talking about his conflation of Free Palestine with Heil Hitler. This has become, due to Netanyahu, this has become an Israeli problem. And I just can't believe the footage we're seeing. This is the kind of footage that you look at in previous wars, in Vietnam, in any other conflict, and you go, oh my God, after the event, this is awful. This is awful. We're watching it happen.
The world has always been able to make themselves feel better by saying we didn't know it was happening. But of course, a lot would have been known throughout all of these things. We learn more and more, don't we? But how are people going to say it this time? How are they?
I couldn't believe I heard Kemi Badenoch, the leader of the Tory party, saying they have the right to say, this is not self-defence.
Anyone that seriously sits there now and says this is self-defence needs proper
psychiatric
care.
help.
Because, how many of these kids are holding guns to your head?
I know, the imminent danger
They haven't got
from
a pair
any
of
of these
fucking
people,
socks.
or if there was anyone in the vicinity, I don't see the imminent danger. This specious argument that there was a top-level hierarchical group of Hamas leaders in a room full of kids about to launch a strike on Tel Aviv. Sorry, guys, doesn't ring true.
Can I just ask this one question, right? I'd really like people to answer below. Because somebody posted this the other day, and it said, if there was one Hamas person in a school or in a building, and there were 150 children around that Hamas person, how many people would actually say, yeah, bomb now? Does anyone think that's right? Now, we've seen multiple videos out of Israel with Israelis saying, yeah, that's absolutely right. All of them are going to be terrorists. But how many of us think that that's right, okay? Because let me tell you something now. We are helping to fund this country. We are helping to fund this. Everything that you're horrified by, we've played a part in it because we're sending parts for the F-35 and God knows what else. And as Keir Starmer said the other day, he can't really tell us what parts because they all go into a pot and then the pot is mixed up.
Pot.
I literally cannot still believe what he said standing up in the Houses of Parliament, and that didn't go everywhere in the paper saying, excuse me, sir, what was that you said?
So basically,
maybe we need to play.
So basically, genocide is being committed because the powers that be can't go into this pot and take out the bits designated for Israel.
Maybe we got something wrong, but we didn't understand.
Well, he seemed particularly anyway. We have done that. Israel's military said in specific relationship to this attack on these kids, it attacked what it called key terrorists. That line could have been used by the British government to blow up all of Belfast to get one IRA member.
What would we have said?
But it would never have been considered.
Blew up a whole school. They would have been considered.
It's patently absurd.
They would have been considered the way they treated the Irish.
Patently, yeah, but the point is, even the brutality of the British and Irish didn't go there. It's patently absurd as a continuing rubric for the continual killing.
But let me tell you, the people are buying this because people don't know what to do. And Israel must have very good psychologists working with them, with their PR people. Oh, it's okay because there's Hamas in there. Think about that. Is it okay if there was a Hamas person in there? Is it okay? Is it okay? For what we've seen there, is that okay? Just be careful that you don't get bloody brainwashed by this absolutely outrageous narrative they've given us for 19 months for every single thing that they've done. Every atrocity.
It is getting ridiculous now. Netanyahu steps out onto his podium. He's beginning to look like a really out-of-date, bad working men's clubs.
Doesn't even look real anymore.
Stand-up routine. He's just like he stands with his elbow. He's having the time of his life. I do want to say to those of you who obviously will be wondering what happened to that young girl who was seen in the flames. I'm going to play this little. Her name Ward Al-Sheikh Khalil. She did make it out alive, and this is a report after the event conducted by the BBC.
But her mother and two older siblings did not.
Oh God.
A classroom turned shelter turned inferno overnight. Israel's military says it attacked what it called key terrorists here in Gaza City and took steps to stop civilians getting hurt.
I think the voiceover
children
they
were
didn't.
killed. It was horrific, says one displaced mother, pulled from the rubble with her son.
It was indescribable. Body parts, charred bodies, the smell of burning. I swear to God, our hearts have died. We're shaken. We're exhausted. Enough.
Today, young Warda returned to the ruins of the bombed shelter in Gaza City, as yet unaware of her personal loss. Amid growing international criticism over the suffering caused by this war, her trauma will only deepen.
My God, so her mother and her siblings did not. Oh, her mother and her siblings were burned alive.
Let's just, as if this isn't enough, let's just bear in mind the fact that it was Jerusalem Day.
Yay.
A sanctioned state holiday, is it? A day of celebration, a day in which extraordinarily racist Zionists charge around Jerusalem.
Illegal settlers, they are both deemed illegal in Israel and in the international courts. So
rush around Jerusalem, assaulting, insulting, and beating up, basically, and abusing
shouting
Palestinians.
death to all Arabs, burn all their villages, and the like.
And this is particular footage of. Keep your eye on the man with the flat cap, who's Palestinian. The arrogance of these kids. Here's some other footage in another marketplace.
Look at this one with the cigarette here. What's wrong with their society now? This little boy doesn't know what to do. This girl's so fishing this full-grown man.
Do you think their parents woke up that morning and said to them, go out and abuse Palestinians?
No, they say that all the time. So now, I put under a post the other day. I said, I'm going to be really controversial here. I feel really sorry for these children. These children are brought up in such hate, with so little education. They are given no soul, and they are going to go through life filled with hate and anger and rage. Now, I watched this a number of times, right? This guy here with the cigarette, there's so much McCoism going on here. You know, he's kind of moving forward, but he doesn't really want. This little one here, who was facing out to the older guy. Not all these children don't want to be this. Children want to be playing and having football, kicking a ball around and looking at girls. These children are, in my opinion, are abused in a completely different way, because they are not brought up as children should be. They are brought up to hate, to bully, to be violent.
They've been radicalised.
And I can just see, totally radical, and I can just see them here. They're just sort of like, it's a horrible thing. And, you know, Danielle Weiss now sanctioned, that'll make a big difference.
Doesn't bother anything she does.
Lead illegal settler, who we all saw on the brilliant Luther's documentary, The Settlers. I remember another documentary that I saw with her, and her husband was saying to her, why do you go on and on and on to the children? Why is there nothing else? She goes, because this is what they must hear from beginning to end.
It's brainwashing. It is brainwashing.
It's brainwashing. And these children, these little bully boys, are victims of that, and it's just shocking. Radicalised brainwashing.
Isn't it interesting how much we hear about how Islam is everyone is Muslim, is radical Islam. Radical Islam. Let's not forget, radical Islam is
radical
a tiny part of Muslim, tiny part of Muslims. This is radical. What is it? Zionism. Radical. Yeah.
And just to reiterate, right, I say this every time now so that people understand. Zionism is a political ideology. It is not a religion.
No.
There are many Christian Americans who are Zionists, and it's completely within the law to be against Zionism. We are allowed to sit here and say, I'm completely anti-Zionist. You're allowed to say that. It's like saying anti-socialism, anti-communism, anti-capitalism.
Exactly.
So don't get those wires mixed up, because Netanyahu will have you mixed up with
exactly,
that, right?
And don't let anyone say to you it's the same thing.
It's not the same
It's the
thing.
same thing as disallowing you from being critical of a state. It's ridiculous. Like, it's a good example. You can be anti-communist, anti-socialist, anti-Zionist. It's a construct. It is a
political
construct.
ideology.
Yeah.
And you'll see on the marches, and you'll see all over Instagram, Jewish groups saying they have nothing to do with Zionism. So don't get it twisted, guys.
I'm just going to show one last clip from Jerusalem Day. I don't know whether we have huge Irish following. Ireland has obviously got massively behind the Palestinian cause. I'm getting extraordinary sort of memories of something similar in Ireland, which was it the Orange Parade or the Orange Day, where the Orange men, Ulster Unionists, would march through Catholic neighbourhoods as a provocation, literally as a provocation. And that's where I feel, again, isn't it funny how the colonialism of all these oppressed people and the oppressors, there's such similarities in the DNA, isn't there? There really are. So this is one final clip because it features the, eyes out on a stalk Ben Gvir. to the Palestinian.
Look at them all picking on him. Loads of them. You never see one-on-one. You never see one-on-one.
They stormed the Al-Aqsa Mosque.
היום כבר אפשר, ברוך השם, להתפלל בהר הבית, להשתחוות בהר הבית, מודים לקדוש ברוך הוא על כך, ונמשיך אנחנו כאן תפילה לשלומם של החטופים שיחזרו הביתה כולם בשלום לניצחון במלחמה. האויבים מכסחים.
They always spit at them. These guys in the purple.
Tell us about the purple.
So these guys in the purple jacket, they don't get enough praise. They're a mixture of Israeli Arabs and Israeli Jews, and what they do is they get in between settlers and Palestinians. They are incredibly brave, and because if a Palestinian retaliates or anywhere, or even tries to protect themselves, they'll be hauled off. And so they get in between. And you can see they're not macho guys. No. They're scared, but they do it anyway. It's like the director of No Other Land, you know, when he talks so beautifully about that, doesn't it? What he's allowed to do and what his Palestinian counterpart isn't allowed to do. And they have a conscience. And my God, they will suffer, those people. I follow them on Instagram, actually. They will get it from both sides. But wow, brave, brave, brave. And I have never seen an Israeli settler one-on-one, never.
No.
They kick and beat old people, children. Yesterday they massacred a whole load of baby goats. I don't know if you saw that, left them half dead.
They're total hillbillies. They're total hillbillies.
Yeah.
I mean, they're embarrassing. They're really embarrassing. And as we sum up finally, once again, still, our government hasn't put any concrete actions in place.
Still. Vile.